Keanu Reeves style-inspired intro. There was a moment in my life when everything went silent, not the kind of silence you hear at night, the kind that lives inside your chest after too much pain, too many losses, too many nights pretending you're okay. I smiled in front of people. I kept moving. I kept telling the world I was strong. But the truth, I was falling apart, and then she appeared, not like a miracle, not like some perfect love story from a movie. She came into my life quietly, gently, like someone holding a candle in a room I thought would stay dark forever. She saw the pain I never talked about, the wounds I buried so deeply that even I stopped looking at them. And somehow, she stayed. When I wanted to disappear, she reminded me why I should live. When I hated myself, she spoke to me like I still mattered. When the whole world felt cold, she became the only warmth I had left. People think saving a life always looks dramatic. Sometimes, it's just one person sitting beside you while you break in silence. This is the truth I never told anyone, not because I was ashamed, but because some pain is hard to explain. Tonight, for the first time, I'm going to tell that story. Paul, there was a time in my life when I stopped answering the phone, not because I was busy, not because I needed space, but because I didn't know how to explain what was happening inside me. You ever sit alone in a room so quiet that your own thoughts start sounding louder than the world outside? That was me. People looked at me and thought I had everything figured out. They saw the calm face, the polite smile, the slow voice, the way I carried myself like someone who understood life. But the truth was very different. I was tired, not physically. I mean the kind of tired that sleep cannot fix, the kind that follows heartbreak, loss, loneliness. Years of pretending to be strong because nobody ever asked if you were okay for real. I became good at hiding pain. Too good. I could laugh at dinner tables while my chest felt empty. I could stand in crowded places and still feel completely alone. I could look people in the eyes while silently begging life to stop hurting for 1 second. And the strange thing about pain is, eventually it becomes normal. You stop fighting it, you stop talking about it, you just carry it like it belongs to you. That's where I was. Every morning felt heavy, every night felt longer than the one before. I started losing interest in things I used to love. Music sounded distant, food had no taste, conversations felt fake. I remember walking through the city one evening while it rained lightly around me. People were running toward restaurants, taxis, warm homes. And I just kept walking with no destination. I think that was the first moment I realized something dangerous. I didn't care where I ended up. That scared me, because when a person stops caring, they become invisible to themselves. I wasn't trying to die, but I also wasn't trying to live. There's a difference, and some people understand exactly what I mean when I say that. You wake up, you survive the day, you smile when required, you go home, you sit in silence, and then you repeat it again tomorrow. That's not living, that's existing. I became emotionally numb. I stopped expecting happiness because disappointment always arrived first. I stopped opening up because every time I did, people either misunderstood me or disappeared. So I built walls, very tall ones. I convinced myself I didn't need anybody, that being alone was safer, that isolation protected me from pain. But isolation also becomes a prison. Nobody tells you that the more time I spent alone, the darker my thoughts became. I started replaying old memories like scars that refused to heal. Every regret, every goodbye, every person I failed, every moment I wished I could change. They all came back at night, and nighttime is dangerous when your mind becomes your enemy. There were evenings when I sat in complete darkness without turning on a single light. Not because I forgot, because darkness matched how I felt inside. I remember staring at the ceiling for hours wondering how a human being can feel so disconnected from the world while still standing inside it. I kept asking myself questions I couldn't answer. Why do people leave? Why does love disappear? Why do good memories hurt the most later? Why does loneliness feel heavier in a crowded world? Nobody prepares you for emotional exhaustion. People teach you how to survive financially, how to work hard, how to chase success. But nobody teaches you how to survive yourself. And I was losing that battle quietly. The hardest part was pretending. Pretending I was okay became a full-time job. Hey, how are you? I'm good. That sentence almost killed me. Because the truth was, I wasn't good for a very long time. I just didn't want to become a burden to anyone. That's another dangerous thing people do. They hide their pain because they think honesty will make others uncomfortable. So they suffer privately. That's what I did. I disappeared emotionally before I disappeared physically. And then one night something happened. I never told anyone. I was sitting alone with a drink in my hand while rain hit the windows, softly. The city outside looked alive. Cars moving, people laughing somewhere far away. But inside that room, everything felt dead. I remember looking at my reflection in the glass window and not recognizing the person staring back at me. Have you ever looked at yourself and thought, what happened to you? Because I did. I looked exhausted, not old, not broken physically, just emotionally destroyed, and for the first time in my life, I admitted something terrifying to myself. I didn't think anyone would notice if I disappeared. That thought stayed in the room with me, heavy, cold, real. I think people underestimate how dangerous loneliness can become when it lasts too long. Humans are not built to carry pain forever without connection. At some point, your soul starts collapsing quietly, and mine was. I stopped answering messages, stopped going out unless I absolutely had to, stopped letting people close. I became a ghost inside my own life. Days blurred together, weeks disappeared. I lost track of time because nothing felt meaningful anymore. And when life loses meaning, even simple things become difficult. Getting out of bed feels heavy. Looking in the mirror feels uncomfortable. Even hearing your own name can feel strange. I carried guilt I never spoke about, pain I never explained, memories I never healed from. And the worst part? People praised me for being strong, but strength is not silence. Sometimes silence is just suffering with good manners. I became addicted to emotional distance. It felt safer not to care too much, not to love too deeply, not to trust completely. Because every time I opened my heart in the past, life took something away from me, so eventually I stopped opening it at all. That's what trauma does. It convinces you that numbness is protection. But numbness also steals joy. I remember sitting at a cafe once watching strangers laugh together, while I wondered what it felt like to genuinely feel light again. Not distracted, not entertained, not temporarily happy. I mean truly alive. I couldn't remember the last time I felt that. And then she walked into my life in the most ordinary way possible. No dramatic movie moment, no perfect music playing in the background, no magical timing, just a quiet human being with kind eyes and a calm presence. At first I didn't think much of it. I had already convinced myself that people eventually leave, so I kept my distance emotionally. But she was different. She didn't force conversations. She didn't try to impress me. She didn't treat me like a project that needed fixing. She simply listened. And sometimes, being heard saves a person more than advice ever can. I remember one specific moment clearly. We were sitting together late at night while the world outside felt silent. I said something small about being tired. Most people would have ignored it. But she looked at me carefully and said, "No, you're hurting." Nobody had said that to me before. Not honestly. Not without judgment. And hearing those words felt like someone opening a locked door inside my chest. Because pain changes you when nobody notices it. You begin to think becoming invisible is normal. But she noticed everything. The pauses in my voice, the fake smiles, the way I avoided certain topics, the exhaustion behind my eyes. And instead of walking away from it, she stayed. That confused me. I wasn't used to people staying. I kept waiting for her to disappear like everyone else eventually did. But she kept showing up, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, with patience, with understanding, with warmth I didn't know how to receive anymore. And the strange thing is, I didn't trust kindness at first. When you've suffered long enough, love feels suspicious. You start asking yourself, what does this person want from me? Why are they being so patient? When will they leave? Pain teaches people to expect abandonment, so every time she cared about me, a part of me became afraid, because caring means vulnerability, and vulnerability means risk. But she never demanded perfection from me. She allowed me to be quiet, allowed me to feel broken, allowed me to exist without pretending. That changed something inside me slowly. For the first time in years, I started looking forward to tomorrow a little bit. She never tried to rescue me with speeches. That's what made her different. Most people hear pain and immediately start searching for answers. But she understood something rare. Sometimes a wounded person does not need solutions first. Sometimes they just need someone willing to sit beside the wreckage without running away. And she stayed. Not for one night. Not for one emotional conversation. Not only when I looked calm and easy to love. She stayed consistently. That word matters more than people realize, because trust is not built through promises. It is built through repeated presence. Every time life became heavy again, she was there. Every time my mind disappeared into dark places, she noticed before I even spoke. I remember one morning when I barely slept the entire night. My thoughts had been tearing through me for hours. Regret, loneliness, old memories reopening like wounds. By the time the sun came up, I was exhausted emotionally. I sat quietly staring at a cup of coffee growing cold in my hands. She looked at me gently and asked, "Did you fight your mind all night again?" That question almost broke me, because nobody had ever understood my silence that deeply before. Most people only recognize visible pain, but she recognized invisible exhaustion, the kind hidden behind calm faces. And slowly, without realizing it, I started talking again. Not all at once. Pain does not leave dramatically. It leaves carefully, one truth at a time. I told her about the nights I felt empty, the moments I questioned my purpose, the loneliness I carried even in crowded rooms. I expected judgment. Instead, she listened like my pain mattered. "Do you know how healing that is? To speak honestly without feeling weak?" That changed me more than she probably ever understood. Because when someone listens to your wounds without trying to shame you for them, something inside you begins breathing again. For years I believed emotions had to stay hidden, that vulnerability made a man fragile. But she showed me something different. Real strength is honesty. Real strength is admitting when you're tired, when you're scared, when you no longer recognize yourself. And she never made me feel smaller for those truths. If anything, she made me feel human again. That's important, because depression does something terrifying to people. It disconnects them from themselves. You stop feeling like a person. You become survival habits wrapped inside silence. Wake up. Move forward. Pretend. Repeat. But around her, I slowly remembered what it felt like to feel alive. Not instantly. Healing is never instant. Some days I still pushed her away emotionally. Some days my sadness returned without warning. Some nights I became distant because I didn't know how to explain what was happening inside my head. And still, she stayed patient. I once asked her, "Why don't you leave?" She smiled softly and said something I will never forget. "Because I see the person hiding underneath the pain." Nobody had ever said that to me before. Most people only see what pain turns you into. Exhausted, withdrawn, complicated. But she looked deeper than that. She saw the version of me I thought had disappeared forever. And slowly, I started trying again because of her. That's the truth nobody knows. People think healing always comes from motivation, from success, from money, from achievements. Sometimes healing comes from one person believing you still deserve love when you no longer believe it yourself. She made ordinary moments feel meaningful again. Late night conversations, quiet walks, sitting together without speaking. Before her, silence felt lonely. With her, silence felt peaceful. That difference changed my life. I remember walking beside her one evening, while city lights reflected across wet streets after rain. For the first time in years, I noticed the world around me again. The sound of traffic, the cold air, the glow of windows above us. Pain had made me emotionally blind for so long, but she brought color back into ordinary things. Not because she was perfect. She wasn't. She had scars too, fears too. Moments where life hurt her deeply. Maybe that's why she understood me. Broken people often recognize pain in each other without needing explanations. And the beautiful thing about her was this. She never tried to own me. She never demanded I become someone else. She simply encouraged me to stop abandoning myself. There's a huge difference. One night we sat together for hours talking about loss, about grief, about the strange emptiness people carry silently through life. And she told me something that stayed in my heart forever. "You survived every painful day before this one. Don't disrespect your survival by giving up now." I carried those words with me, especially on difficult nights, because healing is not linear. Some mornings I still woke up feeling heavy. Some memories still hurt. Some wounds still reopened unexpectedly. But now, I wasn't fighting alone anymore, and that changes everything. Loneliness becomes dangerous when pain has no witness. She became the witness to my suffering, not in a dramatic way, not like a therapist or savior, just a human being who genuinely cared whether I made it through another dark night. And honestly, there were moments when her presence kept me alive. That's difficult to admit publicly. People admire independence. They celebrate self-made strength. But the truth is, sometimes another person's love becomes the bridge between survival and collapse. She became that bridge for me. I started laughing naturally again, not fake polite laughter, real laughter. I started sleeping better, started feeling less afraid of tomorrow. And for the first time in a long time, hope stopped feeling impossible. Not huge hope, just small hope, the kind that whispers, maybe life can still become something beautiful. That whisper saved me, and she was the reason I heard it again. The strange thing about pain is that people only notice the version they can see. If you're bleeding, they panic. If you collapse, they rush toward you. If tears fall publicly, suddenly everyone understands you're hurting. But silent pain? Silent pain is invisible. And invisible pain is dangerous because the world keeps moving while you slowly fall apart inside. That was my reality for years. I became an expert at appearing fine. I learned how to smile during conversations, while carrying sadness so heavy it felt physical. I learned how to joke around while my mind was quietly drowning. I learned how to sit in crowded places, feeling completely disconnected from everyone around me. Nobody noticed, or maybe they did, but didn't know what to say. That's another truth people avoid. Most humans are uncomfortable with emotional honesty. They know how to celebrate success. They know how to talk during happy moments. But when someone is quietly breaking inside, silence usually follows. So I stayed silent too. I convinced myself my pain wasn't important enough to share, that everyone else already had their own problems, that speaking honestly would only make me look weak. And eventually, silence became part of my identity. People started describing me the same way all the time. Calm, mysterious, quiet, strong. But what they called strength was often emotional exhaustion. There's a difference. Sometimes people become quiet because they've carried too much for too long. I remember going through entire days feeling emotionally numb. Not sad, not angry, just empty. That emptiness frightened me more than sadness ever did, because sadness at least means your heart is reacting. Emptiness feels like your soul stopped speaking altogether. I would wake up and stare at the ceiling wondering how life became so heavy without anyone realizing it. And the hardest part? I still had responsibilities, still had expectations around me, still had people assuming I was okay because I looked composed on the outside. That's the cruel thing about functioning while broken. People think functioning means healed. It doesn't. Some people are surviving quietly while looking completely normal. I was one of them. There were moments I wanted to disappear from everyone for weeks, not because I hated people, because pretending became exhausting. Every conversation felt like performance. "How are you?" "I'm fine." I said those words so many times they lost meaning completely, and deep down, I think I hoped someone would look at me and say, "No, tell me the truth." But almost nobody ever does. Most people accept the mask, because masks make life more comfortable. Real emotions scare people, especially male pain. Men are taught strange things growing up. Be strong, don't cry too much, just hold it alone. Keep moving forward no matter what. Nobody teaches men how to emotionally survive heartbreak, grief, loneliness, or trauma. So many men walk through life emotionally starving while pretending they're okay. I understand them deeply, because I became that man. There were nights when memories hit me so hard I physically couldn't sleep. Old losses replayed inside my mind like unfinished conversations, faces I missed, words I wish I said differently, moments I could never get back. Grief is strange because it never fully leaves. It changes shape over time. Some days it whispers softly. Other days it crashes into your chest without warning. And I carried years of unresolved grief inside me. Not just grief from losing people, grief from losing versions of myself too. The younger version who believed love lasted forever. The hopeful version who trusted easily. The softer version who wasn't afraid of getting hurt. Pain changed all of them. People think heartbreak only affects relationships. That's not true. Deep pain changes your personality, your energy, your trust, your ability to connect with the world. And after enough disappointment, I stopped expecting happiness entirely. I became emotionally cautious with everything. Even good moments scared me because I knew how quickly life could take things away. That's what prolonged suffering does. It teaches you to fear attachment, because attachment means vulnerability, and vulnerability means potential loss. So instead of opening my heart fully, I kept pieces of myself hidden from everyone.